it is appropriate at this time to answer some questions. We made the call last night on the respective Twitter accounts, PFT and Chris Simms. And we've got some, Chris. We've got several questions to get to, so let's get right to it on this Thursday morning. And the first question, this is a good one, not to be confused with the bad ones that we got. Joseph Redfern 2 wants to know who plays for a different team first, Dak Prescott of the Cowboys or, oh, Aaron Rodgers, the Packers don't want you. It's just a matter of time before they trade you. Who leaves first?
Aaron Rodgers. This is a no-brainer. I mean, Mike, we've discussed this a lot. I don't think it's crazy to think that Aaron Rodgers might get out of the Green Bay after this year. You know, I don't think that's going to happen with Dak Prescott, even if he plays the franchise tag game, that he'll be there at least for 2 more years. But ultimately, I just don't think the Cowboys are going to let Dak Prescott out of their grasp right now, while he's just about to reach the prime of his career. So, I think with Aaron Rodgers, the way it looks to me right now, he's got 2 more years at most in Green Bay. Maybe it's 1, and he's out of there.
Yeah, look, I agree with you. And when the Packers first traded up 3 weeks ago today to get Jordan Love in round 1 of the draft, when the dust settled on that, we looked at the cap numbers that would hit the Green Bay books if they trade him after this season. The first thought was, well, they can't do it. But then when you compare the cap hit if he's on the team to the cap hit if he's not on the team, and the fact that you save $22 million in cash if you trade him, he very well could be traded after this year. But until the Cowboys sign Dak Prescott to a long-term deal, I'm not ready to assume there won't be a Kirk Cousins type of a situation. And I pressed Stephen Jones, the Cowboys COO, last week on this issue of what if you don't get a deal done by the July 15 deadline for doing a long-term deal with Dak Prescott. We're looking at a salary cap figure of $31.4 million this year. Next year it goes to $37.68 million, and the cap could actually go down next year because of the reduced revenues from the pandemic. Look, that's a lot to pay to Dak Prescott, and then after that, it's a 44% raise over $37.68 million. It's $54 million for 2022. He could be on the open market by 2022, but I'm with you, Chris. I think that Aaron Rodgers gets traded after this season, but I think there's a chance both of them end up playing for other teams. Not one or the other, but I think both could end up elsewhere.
Well, I don't think I don't know. I guess I would be shocked with Dak Prescott just because, and again, I mean, all the things you say make sense, definitely, but there's just not, again, starting franchise top 10 type quarterbacks don't grow on trees. They don't. And I think there's a real affection from the Jones family and the Cowboys organization for what Dak Prescott is. I do. Now, again, I don't know what the little hiccups there are. So we'll see what happens, but I just think Dallas would be crazy to let Dak Prescott out the door, and we'll see where it goes. And Dak Prescott needs to be a little flexible himself too, at least in my opinion, from what I know with the whole contract situation.
We need to move on to the next question, but this all comes down to the Cowboys not pouncing on the opportunity to get Dak Prescott signed to a huge deal, but not a gigantic deal, earlier in the life cycle of his rookie contract. By waiting, they have painted themselves into a corner, and Dak can just sit back and say, I reject your offer. I'll take $31 million this year and $37.68 million next year. I'll do that rather than trade that ability in to take whatever long-term deal you're offering me. And until they give him something that gets him to trade in $69 million over 2 years, he's going to continue on the path that he's currently treading. All right, next question from @Orion Chuz. Who do you think could be this season's Browns with the preseason hype not matching the results? Chris, who do you think?
Well, I mean, I think the obvious one I think of right off the bat is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, again, I think we're all anointing them like champions, right? Or, they're going to be in the playoff conversation. And as we know, it's just not as easy, said as it is done, let alone, again, hey, listen, there's still questions there in Tampa Bay. I mean, we talked, it's the worst pass defense in football last year. So they're the one that jumps out. But who is the next one, Mike? Because, I mean, I think you would agree as the Bucs being that team. Who is the next one where we feel like the hype is starting to outreach the reality? Do you have one there?
Well, yeah, I do. And you're not going to agree with me because you're one of the reasons why the hype has gotten a little out of control, and that's the Buffalo Bills. I think there's a chance that they'll take a step back. I mean, there's just a chance. I mean, there's a chance they won't live up to it. How many times in the past 25 years have the Bills gone into a season with any type of expectations? They're expected to win the division. Jim Kelly came out and said, I expect them to win the division. And there's that feeling, that vibe that they are the best team now in the division. So they only have one way to go, and that's down. And for a team that hasn't won the division in more than 20 years, that's a lot to carry. And I think the Bills have done a much better job than the Browns last year of trying to keep those expectations from getting out of control and setting a level that they'll never match. But I think for me, the Bills are team number 2 on that list. I agree with you. Buccaneers are number 1, but the next one would be the Buffalo Bills.
I understand that. I mean, they're one of the teams I wrote down too. I just didn't. I'm not going to pick them as one of my top 1 or top 2 just because. Again, I'm such a believer of Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott and how they coach their football team and just the attitude they show on a weekly basis. I just have a hard time believing they'll lose their way. Seems like a very focused, detailed group up there. I'll throw one at you that just jumps out to me a little bit. The Denver Broncos. I know we've all talked about them as ooh, watch out, all these new weapons and Vic Fangio's defense and all of those type of things. Hey, the AFC West is a good division, we know, certainly. And when you have that many young players on the offensive side of the ball, sometimes it does take a little time to gel, and especially with young players and now learning a new system and Pat Shurmur, that's a real thing this year. Unlike most years, I think the offenses that are maybe more intact than years past have an advantage than the teams that are bringing in all these new pieces and trying to make some statement here in 2020. It's hard to make that statement when you can't practice all spring and, it's limited meeting time and things like that.
And I'll throw one more on the pile, the Indianapolis Colts. Vegas has them with the shortest odds to win the AFC South. The Texans made the playoffs last year. They were in the final 8. The Titans were in the final 4. The Colts didn't make the postseason, and they're favored to win the division, and they've got this same issue where you've got a bunch of new pieces coming in. It's all got to fall together. It's all got to work. And in a normal year, maybe it would, but this is not a normal year, and I think it makes it harder for the Colts to live up to that hype. All right, at Wilson DA10, how do you see the battle of the 4 young AFC East quarterbacks playing out this coming season, Chris?
Well, I'm a believer in Buffalo, as we just talked about, and Buffalo's a leader in the clubhouse to me in the AFC East. So, I mean, if you made me rank the AFC East quarterbacks this year and their success rate, I'm going to go Josh Allen, Jarrett Stidham, Sam Darnold, and then Tua down in Miami. I think that's the way I see it playing out more than not. Again, I like what I saw from Sam Darnold last year. This is not a disrespect to him or anything like that. It's more about just the Jets in general. I just got to see more consistent, better offensive play from that whole side of the ball with the Jets. I know Jarrett Stidham's new in New England, but, again, it is New England. And I think it's a little bit better of a receiving core there than people realize. They made a few nice adjustments this offseason, and I think Stidham is poised and ready to go. So, I'm going to give New England instead of a little bit of the edge over Darnold and the Jets.
And you mentioned Tua Tagovailoa, the Dolphins quarterback. We've yet to see any indication that he'll play this year at all, much less start week 1. I think it's going to be Ryan Fitzpatrick week 1. Tua probably at some point. But, Chris, the combination of the Dolphins in this kind of gradual rebuild process, Tua with the hip injury, the injury questions, and also with the limited ability to get ready for the season, the idea of throwing him into the fire aggressively this year when you have Ryan Fitzpatrick, I don't know that makes sense. When would you start Tua?
Well, that would. How does it look in training camp? I say he's going to be the starter because I think and preseason games is certainly a big question right now, but if Tua shows, hey, he's poised, he's learning the offense, wow, he looks like he's moving good and throwing the ball well, and wow, he's clamoring to us that he wants to play, he feels good, he wants to play, and then he goes out there and has a good preseason game or two, the fan base is going to be clamoring for him. They're going to be Tua. We're seeing with the jersey sales, the Dolphins won't have a choice. They will start Tua. That's where I say, if it's a somewhat normal training camp, I think Tua will be the week 1 starter in Miami. I do.
And I also think that the Dolphins may do what they did back in 2012 with Ryan Tannehill, different coaching staff, different everything except owner. But you put the rookie lower on the depth chart, and we've seen other teams do this where you know he's ultimately going to win the job. You want him to earn it. You want him to check the box. You want him to develop the confidence that comes from leapfrogging others on the depth chart. And right now you've got not just Ryan Fitzpatrick, but unless he's traded or released, Josh Rosen in front of Tua as well. And maybe they start him at number 3, and as he shows who he is and what he can do, he works his way up. And then when he's the starter, he feels like he's earned it, and the teammates feel like he's earned it as well. So I think
that's right, Mike. You're definitely right, though. You're spot on. I would think that's going to be the approach there with Brian Flores, an ex-New England guy, too. And then, what they'll do, too, is they'll ensure his success. They'll script for success, right? And what I mean by that is they will have certain plays in practice for Tua when he's in there where they're going to run a certain play on offense, and they're going to make sure that the defense is in the perfect play to get gashed by Tua and that offensive play. So it'll be a good teaching moment for the defense. Hey, guys, if we get stuck in this defensive alignment and they call this play, okay, we got to do this. But that's what teams do to build up the momentum of, hey, we're trying to make this guy the guy and get the team to believe. And I think a lot of that will go on with all these young quarterbacks, but especially Tua down there in Miami.
Interesting question from Eric Cullison. How often does a team's name play a role in what people think of that team? For example, if you took the Buccaneers roster right now and put them on the Giants, the Cowboys, the Packers, etc., would they not be considered a top 3 team? Chris, any credence to the idea that the name that we apply to a collection of players influences how we view those players?
I think so. I do think there is something to that. The old traditional powers, I feel like, get favored a little bit, right? If we see any inkling of good with, the Steelers, the Giants, the Patriots, anything like that, we just want to jump onto it. The Bears, same way, like we saw last year. So I do think there is something to that a little bit. Names have power. Hey, I used to say this with the Packers all the time. I mean, every year we put the Packers in, they're a Super Bowl contender. They're a Super Bowl contender. And I wanted to be like, well, what about the team tells you they're a Super Bowl contender other than it's the Packers and Aaron Rodgers? So I do think there's some truth to that. I don't know about top 3 team, though. Like that might be stretching it. Getting more credit than they deserve, yes. But I don't think if Brady and everybody was on the Giants, we'd be going, oh, they're a top 3 team. No, I don't think it would be that drastic.
Let me ask you this. And setting aside the coaching staffs, just the players, if you took the 53 current members of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, well, it's 90, but you know what I mean.
I got
the ones who are actually going to play. You take the final 53-man roster, and you swap the Buccaneers and the Patriots. Are the Buccaneers turned Patriots with Brady and Gronk and Mike Evans and O.J. Howard and the pieces they have on defense under the tutelage of Bill Belichick, are they not a Super Bowl contender right out of the gates?
They're going to be, yes. They're going to be in definitely in upper echelons of that conversation. I agree with you there. Yeah. But again, that's matching some proven commodities with more proven commodities right there. It's like, oh, okay, Brady and Gronk and Bill Belichick. All right. We know they know how to get it done. Where, again, it's not a disrespect to Bruce Arians in Tampa Bay, but there's just the reality of the situation is they're not the New England Patriots organization. And, it's been inconsistent. And Bruce Arians has had some inconsistent years coaching football teams. So I think with all of that, I agree with you. It would be different if it was the positions were swapped there.
One more quick one from Sage Stevens. Chris, big fan. I remember in one of the Madden games, I'd always trade for you to back up Jeff Garcia on my Niners. I don't know if that's a compliment. Question, whatever happened to the white fur coat you used to wear to high school parties? This is an important question.
Whoa, watch out. I never wore any white fur coats to a high school party, okay? I don't know who this guy is. I got to figure out. He's obviously some North Jersey guy who saw me around. I did have a shearling coat my senior year in high school, right? A shearling coat, like that brown suede.
No, I didn't grow up rich. My dad didn't play quarterback in the NFL, so I don't know what kind of coat that is.
Okay, I forgot. Yeah, because you're not rich now and you don't know
upbringing.
what those coats look like. Shove it, okay, Florio? Give me bull crap.
Steve Young,
It was nothing
Steve Young
special.
has just texted laissez-faire upbringing.
Yes, laissez-faire upbringing as he was raised in his $20 million mansion here in Greenwich. Yeah. But yes, I did have a coat like that, and it wasn't like it was expensive. I bought it off the rack at like Nordstrom's or something like that.
Oh, yeah. Off the rack at Nordstrom's. Yeah, okay, that's funny. So whatever happened to it? Where is it?
It's gone. I didn't sport it for a long
basement?
time. I loved it. It was like, it kind of had like that Joe Namath look to it. It was pretty good, but I don't know where it's gone. It's long gone. That was a long time ago.
One of the all-time great pre-Super Bowl photos, your dad with Joe Namath. Joe Namath wearing the fur coat, and your dad standing there next to him, thinking, where's my fur coat? But
do you know he set my dad up, too? He made sure my dad was going to wear something really bland and normal so he could pop. He called my dad a few days before the Super Bowl, right? And, hey, Phil, I just want to know what you're going to wear so we can kind of be the same. And my dad said, I'm just going to wear a blue blazer. Okay, me too. And then, of course, he went there and stole the show and then decided to flip the coin. Remember where they said heads and tails? To me, one of the all-time classic pregame moments of a Super Bowl.
He had a blue blazer on under the fur coat. He wasn't lying to you, Dad.
Right.
He did have a blue blazer. All right. And one last comment from Ideno40. Why do I do this to myself? There's no question. He just says Drew Pearson didn't push off. No, Nate Wright dove onto the ground.
I agree.
I need to track down Nate Wright if he's still with us, and I'm not sure that he is, and find out what technique he was playing here when he dives onto the ground. What are you doing? The ball's coming in, and you dive forward. You were pushed. That's why you dove forward. So
it looks like some Vikings Olay bullcrap there. Just typical Vikings crap there. I don't know why you picked that team to root for.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.